The fear is primal, a cold dread that slithers from the deepest, most ancient parts of the human psyche. It is not the fear of death itself, but of a far more intimate and terrifying fate, being mistaken for dead and consigned to the suffocating darkness of the grave while still alive. This was not mere superstition. For centuries, the threat of premature burial was a genuine and horrifying possibility, a macabre shadow cast by the limitations of medicine and the inevitability of decay. The terror of being buried alive, known as taphophobia, has its roots in a grim historical reality. Before the advent of modern medicine, determining death was an imprecise and often rushed art. In an era of plagues, cholera, and tuberculosis, bodies needed to be disposed of quickly to prevent the spread of disease. The line between a deep coma, a cataleptic trance, and actual death was perilously thin. The uncertain signs of life, how could one be sure? Doctors of the 18th and 19th centuries relied on flawed methods. Holding a mirror to the mouth, a lack of condensation was proof of death. But on a humid day or with a faint, shallow breath, the test was unreliable. Checking for a pulse or breath, a weak heartbeat, or imperceptible respiration could easily be missed. Ticking the feet, a crude and often ineffective test for any neurological response. Applying painful stimuli. This included pouring hot water on the skin, inserting needles under fingernails, or even slicing the feet with blades. A body in shock or a deep stupor might not react. There were countless documented cases and urban legends that fueled the panic. Stories circulated of exhumed corpses found with bloody fingertips, torn shrouds, and twisted limbs, their mouths frozen in a silent scream, a testament to a final, agonizing struggle for air 6 feet under. The safety coffin, a macabre invention. This widespread fear sparked a wave of macabre ingenuity, the development of safety coffins. These devices, patented primarily in the 18th and 19th centuries, were designed to provide the deceased with a way to signal the living or survive until rescue. The designs ranged from the practical to the fantastical. Air tubes, simple pipes leading to the surface to allow for ventilation, sometimes with a small flag attached that would flutter if there was movement below. Bell systems. A cord or string was placed in the hand of the corpse and run through the coffin and up through the soil to a bell above ground. The slightest movement would ring the bell, alerting the ever-present cemetery watchman. This is the origin of the phrases "saved by the bell" and "dead ringer." Escape hatches, complex coffins with spring-loaded lids, ladders, and even emergency supplies of food and water. Yet for all their cleverness, these coffins were rarely used. They were expensive, complicated, and served more to soothe the anxieties of the living than to actually save anyone. A bell cord could easily be disturbed by settling earth or animals, and a body in the throes of a seizure might never grasp it. Famous cases in cultural terror, the fear was pervasive, touching all levels of society. Several famous figures were so terrified of premature burial they left specific instructions to prevent it. George Washington, on his deathbed, he commanded his secretary to wait 3 days before burial, just to be sure. Hans Christian Andersen, the author, demanded that a knife be plunged into his heart before burial and that his arteries be cut. Alfred Nobel, the inventor of dynamite, requested that his veins be opened and cremation follow, a surefire way to avoid the grave. Frédéric Chopin, his fear was so profound that his heart was removed and preserved in cognac after his death, while the rest of his body was interred. The anxiety seeped into the art and literature of the time. It became a staple of Gothic horror. Edgar Allan Poe, a master of the macabre, exploited this universal dread in several of his stories, most famously in The Premature Burial, 1844, a chilling tale that details the protagonist's own catalepsy and his worst fear realized. His other story, The Fall of the House of Usher, features the burial of Madeline Usher, who breaks free from her tomb to terrifying effect. The end of an era. The tide began to turn in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The stethoscope became a standard tool for doctors, allowing for a more accurate assessment of the heartbeat. The development of the EKG electrocardiogram provided definitive proof of cardiac activity. Society also began adopting more practical solutions, such as the establishment of waiting mortuaries in Germany, where corpses were laid out on cots with strings attached to bells until definitive signs of decay appeared. Most decisively, the cultural shift towards embalming and cremation in the 20th century effectively eliminated the possibility. Modern legal standards require a doctor's certification of death, and funeral homes have strict protocols. The nightmare of waking in a coffin is, for all practical purposes, a horror of the past. Yet the fear persists. It echoes in our nightmares and in our horror films. It is the final, absolute loss of control, a betrayal by our own bodies and by those we trust most. The history of premature burial is a chilling reminder of a time when the grave was not a certainty but a gamble, and the dread of darkness was matched only by the terror of waking up within it. It is a testament to a horror that was once terrifyingly real.